Byju Raveendran is going to have it tough this week. Come Friday, Byju's investors have called for an extraordinary general meeting, EGM, to decide the fate of Byju's family on board. He, his wife and his brother, they are likely to be ousted because the vote is to oust them. What they will need is to ensure that they have 51% vote in their favor, which is an investor's favor, in order to change the guard at Byju's.
Right, then let's take a look at the way the shareholding of Byju's is. Shweta, take a look at that. You have Byju Raveendran, his wife Divya Gokulnath and Riju Ravindran. These three members put together have about 26% stake, and they are also the only people left on the board of Byju's. And then you have a huge chunk in that green over there, which is 51%, which is others. And then you have PKXV and GA as well. Now the question is that the group of shareholders who have investors who have called for the extraordinary general meeting constituted about 30%. And as you're rightly pointing out, they will need 51% to get that motion through. And what all do they want? They want everything from the board being reconstituted and the promoters being thrown out of the board to the leadership of the company. There's this Think and Learn, the name of the company that owns Byju's brand, also being changed. And they have issues with the range of things that Byju's is being known for all the wrong reasons in the recent past. One is their governance issues, their financial issues, and of course compliance issues. You know, you're talking about an ED show cause notice where there is no explanation why there was no compliance with the enforcement directorate of this country. A term loan that Byju Raveendran seems to have misled the company about. Recently they just evacuated their 4.5 lakh square feet office space in Bengaluru's Prestige Park as well, because they can't afford to pay the lease for that anymore.
And let's not forget the number of people who have been let go of or laid off from Byju's in the past couple of weeks and months. Some estimate that they are about 30–40% of the total workforce. And Byju Raveendran unable to pay back their employees in the month of November, December, January, taking loan to actually meet payment obligation towards his own employees' salaries.
Right, and that sort of is when people realized how deep the problem is, and where exactly Byju Raveendran is, and where exactly he can't run anymore. There is, and despite that, I would have expected, by now, after having seen all that's happened, there would have been constant, questions being raised. Questions have been raised. It was back in July, and again was raised in December by all the investors, from Process to PKXV Partners to all the big investors. The big name investors have asked for a change in the management of the company. Somehow that has not happened, and I'm wondering why. If Byju Raveendran is trying to put out this image of saying that I am willing
warrior image. He's trying to project a warrior image that I'm going to fight it out till my last breath, unable to let go of the company he's founded and taking it down with him in the process.
Right. And in fact, if he's going to put out things like he's going to pledge his own house to pay the salaries, what does it make it look like? It's a bit of a victim complex. I'd say. Fact of the matter is that he is where he is because of his own issues, of his board's own issues, of his management's own issues. So in that sense, if issues have really reached this point, there should have been a change in management by now.
And which was asked from the investors, the 30% investors who are currently calling for that vote, who cannot legally vote because they don't have the right to do so as per their agreement with the company, but they're calling other board members, the other investors, the other shareholders to in fact vote out the family. And they've been calling for it for a while now. They've been asking for a change of guard, Krishna. It's also important to point out for the benefit of our viewers at this point that there has been a call to step down Byju Raveendran. There's been a call to Byju Raveendran to ask him to step down, for his family members to step down. They have not given in to those demands just as yet. He is, of course, too close to the company and he's unable to let go of the reins of the company.
So close that, if Byju Raveendran were to be thrown out of the company, what is the company going to be called? Will it still be called Byju's, or will it be called not Byju's? That's the question of here. His name is attached with the branding of the company. So that's how close he is to the company. The question here is that if also to think about, something to chew on, is that if the investors eventually succeed in throwing Byju Raveendran out, are they going to keep the brand name Byju's? Are they going to change the brand name Byju's as well? We wouldn't know, but it's going to be a two-step process. Bear in mind, Byju Raveendran and his family on the board of directors, if they fail to show up for this extraordinary general meeting, then it needs to be reconvened after a week. And if they don't show up again in the reconvened after a week, there's not enough quorum for that EGM to take place, then a new quorum can be formed by the investors who have called for that, and then it's a process. So for all those thinking that by this Friday, Byju Raveendran is going to be thrown out of the company. It's not going to happen that fast.
There may be another week's time, another week's deadline that the company, its founders will have. But news is tightening around Byju Raveendran.
Definitely.
This time not so much about regulatory authorities or from regulatory authorities, but its own investors, its own shareholders. We'll continue tracking those updates, those very crucial updates on whether Byju Raveendran will continue to be at the helm of affairs when it comes to Byju's by this Friday.